Hello everyone, welcome back to the Backseat Admiral. I'm excited for you all to join me tonight. I'm going to be talking about a local tournament. So I'm going to wait for chat to catch up to the delay and see if there is sound. That's really all I have to check in, how I'm sounding. So let me know in the chat if you can hear me and all that fun stuff. So I wasn't actually going to do a Backseat Admiral today, so I ended up going to a local tournament, and I have the time, so I figured, hey, let's talk about the fleet, what I went up against, and my feelings on how I did at the tournament. Sounds good, thank you. I have Dan, Ozzel, and D-Danger in the thing. Welcome aboard. Okay, so let's talk about this tournament. So it was this last Sunday, so yesterday. It's been a long day. Having a baby, you don't really tell time anymore. Like, it's just between feeding, so it's like, feed the baby, burp the baby, hold the baby, baby calms down, and then you have like an hour to do everything. Like, oh my gosh, I need to brush my teeth, I should try to jump in the shower, maybe not, and then by that point the baby's now moving into the pooping stage. And then after the pooping stage and after the calming stage, then it's the feeding stage, and the whole cycle restarts. So I feel like my life is like multiple days all in one. So the tournament was yesterday. Doesn't feel like it though. So the tournament was held up at one of, I call it local game stores, but it's pretty far for me. It's like an hour plus to get there. The store is Games Plus. It was run by a gentleman named Dan. He goes by Wildspace on a bunch of Discord and things like that. And he was the TO, and it was run pretty well. And the idea behind the tournament was for players that were going to be going to Adepticon to get some good practice in, because it's always good practice to practice actually running 3+ games in a row. Because playing one game of Armada is okay, and then when you go there and you're like, this is grueling, it's just good to practice. By that third game, your brain's usually not functioning, and if it's a 4-game tournament, then your brain's really not functioning, and then the sorry souls that have to play 5 games in the same day, that's usually pretty rough. So it's practice. I was kind of a last-minute add-on to the tournament. I wasn't planning on going, mainly because new baby, but I had talked to my wife, and I'm like, hey, do you mind if I go? Like, if you're willing to let me go, I'll go. If not, I'll stay home. Like, it's nothing to me. And she said yes, so thank you very much to Riley. So I decided to go. Ken ended up going as well. And it was a total of 14 people for the tournament in 3-round format. I had no clue what I wanted to fly. Mainly because I haven't been to a tournament since, like, pre-COVID, so it's like 2+ years right there. Honestly, it was probably the last tournament I went to was LVO in like the 2019 LVO, maybe a regional after that, but maybe not. Like, it's been a very, very long time since I've been to a tournament. So I don't really play tournament fleets anymore or have the tournament mindset. Like, what Ken and I do here is like throw random lists together for your guys' entertainment, which is very, very different than playing in a tournament where you're really point fortressing and trying to maximize your points. And I've played every objective with my fleet to maximize how I play. Like, that's not necessarily how I play anymore, so I'm like, I don't know what to bring. I don't even know what meta is. I haven't been to the game store up there in probably almost a year now, because time flies. So, like, I don't know what their meta is, so I can't, like, match meta. I don't really know what the outside meta is besides LVO. So, I was talking to people on that game store's Discord. I'm like, what would you guys want me to bring? Like, does anyone really want to bring it? Because if this is practice for people to go to Adepticon, I'm more than happy to bring a terrible list that no one wants to play, but you need practice against. And they agreed. So they asked me to kind of play the Sloniger list, which I've never played before. And you all know how I feel about Onagers, and it still hasn't changed my feeling on it. So I decided to play an Sloniger list. But I didn't even build it. I just stole it from the person that played it at LVO and just copied it directly. So I believe that individual was... Give me 1 second. Let me check. Where is my mouse? There it is. It was Matt M from LVO. It made day 2, and it also placed 5th overall in LVO. So it's a pretty good list. But I've never seen it played, and I've never played it myself, and I've never played a Sloniger before, so it's kind of like I went to the tournament, no practice, no nothing, and I just had to figure out how it goes. So let me show you what my list looked like, and then we'll talk it through. So again, this isn't my list. I'm not going to hardcore critique it. I'll talk about what I think the key parts of it were and things like that. So here's my beautiful list. Nicely painted fighters. I always like running Imperial because I think they're some of my best paint jobs. So Boba Fett, yes, that's probably his list. If that's Matt M. I don't necessarily know everyone's like username to real name to real life person versus internet person. It starts all getting confusing. But yes, it would probably be his list if he's Matt M. I know Boba Fett has run Sloniger before from what I've seen, so it's probably his list. And I think it's really thought out pretty well. So let's look at what it is. So it comes in at 398 points. So you have a little bit of bid, but not much. So people that are running 400 and 399, you get choice over. And anyone that really wants to be first or second, they will get their choice. I think this list is fine going first or second. I've always primarily run my Sloan lists as second player planning, because when I played a lot of Sloan, it was during 2-ship, and like 2-ship is like 25 plus points a bid, and I'm sitting happily in like the 80s, and so if I run against something that's Rebel nonsense, I will choose to be second so I don't get token farmed at the time. And anyone with 2-ship, you're going to go first anyway, and I was fine with that because I played Sloan differently than everyone else. I wasn't one of the people that was just bringing 6 aces. I was bringing like 10 total squadrons and maximizing my counter. So most of my squadrons were countering with 4, which is hilarious when you're Sloan and they're alphaing in with like one of their Mauler. You alpha in with Mauler, and Mauler takes a spend your scatter and 3 damage, which is beautiful because then they don't know what to do, because 2-ship is usually just beating up on everyone, and then you hit like a hard counter to it. So I've always had fun with that, so Sloan's easy. But let's go back to this list. It is an Onager testbed as the main ship. It has veteran gunners, ordnance experts, engines techs, the orbital bombardment particle cannons, because if you bring an Onager, you want to be shooting across the table, and the Cataclysm title. All the upgrades actually were really, really useful for me. I really enjoyed using engine tech. So my plan for this whole ship, the entire game, was I was just going to do navigate. There was one game that I switched it up at like the very beginning of the game because I saw where my fighters were going to be, and I knew that I probably needed a little bit of damage, so I did a squadron dial, knowing that I would be in a good position to escape anyway, and it didn't work out, but having a nav wouldn't have worked out either. I'll talk about that when we get there. If it had squad 2, it would have been able to do something, but like, it is what it is. Veteran gunners came in very, very handy for me because most of my initial dice rolls were god-awful, and it would just be like, I'd roll, and I'm like, oh, let's pretend that didn't happen. Scoop, dump. Once I was using it to try to hunt down for more accuracies, but like for the most part, I think only like maybe 2 attacks for the entire 3-round tournament, I didn't use veteran gunners. Most of the time, like, red dice are red dice, so it's like 4 blanks, and you're like, oh, cool, we'll just restart. I don't really care if I had black dice that are hits, because if you had 4 of your 7 dice blanks, you should just re-roll. And then after you do that, you have ordnance experts to re-roll those blacks. Sometimes I would be hunting for doubles and rolling my hits and just trying to roll for doubles, but most of the time I was just rolling for consistent damage. Engine techs was huge for me on this ship, though. And I was able to use it all the time. I use it all the time. Like going speed 1 and not committing to speed 2, and then engine teching after you move to see where you are and like measuring distances is really, really nice. And then when you are going speed 3 to run away, because a lot of these games I'll kill something and then try to run away with it. Pseudo Speed 4 is amazing, and it got me out of harm a lot of games, or just let me close distance with it. Like I said already, the bombardment cannon, long range was good. I used the critical effect in a couple of games to pretty good effect, so that was fun. And then Cataclysm I used, I think, twice out of the 3 games, and it didn't do anything any of the games. So we'll get to that because that first game had some issues with it. So next ship, it's a Quasar Fire 1, and it's pretty much the standard loadout for a Sloan Quasar. It has Taskmaster Grint, which also helps you get around raid, which we'll get to. It has flight controllers, which is great. It has boosted comms and expanded hangar because, activating 6 squadrons with extra blue dice each time against squadrons is amazing. And then Squall, because sometimes you just need to move your squadrons a little bit farther forward to get them into range to properly alpha strike someone, or pull them back, which I've done, or just I've really lined this up wrong and I would like to move the squadron out of my range of my ship that I'm going to land it on. So you get use out of that. This is something that I typically don't like playing, which is lifeboating your admiral, but it actually worked out really well this game, and it allows you to get around some objectives, especially with this ship. So it's a Raider 1 with Admiral Sloan, because it's a Sloan list. Hondo, because tokens are useful, like to give your Raider a token of a nav is useful. It's also useful to give your Onager a concentrate fire so you can use Cataclysm. And sometimes it's really nice to give your Quasar a token so that it can maneuver or speed up or slow down to keep it safe. And then Corvus, which is great for surprise attack because I'm here, but then I'm not, and I'm over here. I'm not good with Raiders. I think you've all seen that on the channel. Like, usually Raiders just explode. And that stays true for the most part in this. It's one of those things I would have to practice this fleet to know where I need to position the Raider, because I think the Raider only shot maybe twice in 3 rounds. I was just trying to keep it safe, or it immediately got vaporized. There was like no in between. But let's look at the fighter complement. And for the most part, I really, really like this fighter complement. You can't go wrong with Steel and Jendon, especially of Sloan, because that's like your highest chance to strip tokens off. Like, you just tap them twice, and that's a brace gone, theoretically. Especially when you can just set the hit to a crit and then re-roll it with Sloan to try to get an accuracy. Like, there's lots of chances to generate those accuracies. It's great. Tell is there for escort, and he's rogue, and for me, he was pretty useless. The one game, I think he dueled with a Y-Wing for 4 turns before he killed it. It was like, crit accuracy, and you're like, well, that doesn't do anything. And then it's like, crit accuracy, well, that doesn't do anything, and then it just continued. I think he may have done 1 damage total to a ship with the blue dice. It was rough. He was not pulling his weight. And then you have Mauler, and Mauler did work for me, especially in 1 game. So he's phenomenal. Saber Squadron was phenomenal for me. Black Squadron was there, and it's one of those things, like, at the point cost, there's really nothing else to put in. Like, you don't want a standard TIE fighter. You might as well take Black Squadron. And then 2 TIE Defenders. Let's roll down to see. Yeah, 2 TIE Defenders, which actually did a lot of work for me with Sloan against ships because I didn't care what I rolled, which was really nice. And then they have that chance to re-roll the crit and then it not end up being something bad, like if I'm trying to hunt for accuracies. But spoiler alert, anytime I was hunting for accuracies, no accuracies were to be found. If I needed a hit or a crit, accuracies were like, oh, you were asking for us earlier. For objectives, I just straight copied what is in this list. So I don't know really how well they would work. I have the idea behind it. And so we have Most Wanted, and the idea, I guess, is that you just drop that on Sloan, and she flies off into nowhere, so they won't ever have a chance of scoring points or shooting at it. And then you just put it on the one big thing you want to kill, and then you get double points for it. So sorry. Oh, excuse me. The destroyed objective ship is doubled, or at least the base ship, not the upgrades. So, useful. Rift Ambush, I don't know if I've ever actually played Rift Ambush. So I left it in here because there's got to be a reason for it. And I'm guessing it is to play shenanigans around the station, or the Grav Rift yourself. so that you can basically stay at pseudo speed 0, but still be at speed 1, but then still have control that if you needed to move, you could. So you could just sit there and just boom, 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 slow cannon forward and technically be speed 1, but speed 0 at the same time. And then superior positions, because obviously you have a ton of fighters, so if you come up against that, like, yes, please, I will shoot into your rear all day long to collect tokens. So those are the objectives for it, and I liked it. It's not necessarily my style of play, though. Like I mentioned earlier, like my Sloan fleets are different than other people's Sloan fleets, mainly because I'm like lots of interceptors, lots of counter, and I don't care if you come punch me because then I'll just, that counter alpha is usually how I've played it, but this is like all alpha and really focused on trying to kill ships, which I'm not necessarily as good at. When I got there, I found out that the meta is not a fighter-centric meta. It is very much so very big ships, and that's kind of the weakness for this fleet. And that's because while the Onager is really, really powerful, you get one shot, and you're probably going to take 2 to 3 shots to kill a large base ship like an ISD or something like that until you can strip the tokens off, but they're at long, like, that's out of fighter range to like turn 2 kind of. So like you're kind of just stuck that. So I can reliably kill 1 big ship, possibly 2 big ships, and people were running like 3 big ships that were tanky, which isn't good for me because then it's like I have to choose which of those big ships to kill, and then I have to choose maybe another one to weaken. But if I trade out my big ship, my Onager, like it's going to be a huge point shift. So there's that. So let's now jump to my first opponent's fleet. So round 1, I play Michael, and he brings a Sato fleet, and hold on, I don't know what he brought, so we'll just do that. So he brought a Sato fleet, and I respect anyone that brings a Sato fleet to a tournament because I love Sato, and it's just a fun list to play. You don't really see it very much, so you don't know what to expect from it because like Sato's one of those commanders that if he works extremely well. But most of the time he doesn't. So like it's like that midpoint. Michael actually ended up placing 3rd place overall, so this was a very good match for me to start off with. It was rough because I didn't know how to fly my fleet. I don't think he knew how to fly his fleet, so it was kind of just a smash in the middle. We both came in at the same bid, and we did a roll-off. I won. I selected first player. And his objectives were for sure advanced gunnery and contested outposts. I don't remember what his blue was. I knew it was a bad idea, and I chose not to take it, mainly looking at his fleet. So his fleet consists of an MC-80 assault cruiser with Commander Sato, engine techs, advanced projectors, early warning systems, and leading shots. And I looked at that, and I'm like, you know what? As my first game, not knowing how much damage my Onager can really do with my fighters, I don't know if I'm going to be able to take it out. So I probably will have to kill the rest of his fleet. But this ship is like 168 points of his fleet, so it's pretty hefty. Then he had a Neb B escort frigate with auxiliary shield teams, spinal armament, and salvation, which is just a good ship, especially with Sato. If you can switch out those red dice for black dice and then get crits out the front with salvation, that's a lot of damage. Lots and lots and lots of damage. Then he had a naked Neb B, so nothing on it. It's just what it is. Then he had this bane of my existence, and I'll tell you about it later, this GR-75 with Torn Far, Bomber Command, and Bright Hope. Bright Hope. Ugh. Then we have his fighters. He doesn't have a lot. He has 4 Y-Wings and 2 A-Wings. So I think the idea of this is he can suicide the A-Wings across the table if he needs to. And you can avoid then fighters. Like you can just get them there to get the shots off one turn. And then the Y-Wings are there to be meteor to get into the grind and move forward. And then if you don't have ships, then he has Y-Wings and Bomber Command, so he can roll extra damage. So seems pretty good. So I didn't really know what to make of it. I got first player. I looked across the table, and I decided to go contested outposts because I figured with my red dice crit ability, if he clumped up on the station, I could just splatter everything with damage a lot of times, and then I could just try to gun for his big ships and like strip the shields off of his Nebs and his transport. So I went with that. I didn't want advanced gunnery because I never want to give an MC-80 advanced gunnery against me because it will just light you up. It's just like bzzz, laser beam straight through you. And whatever is blue did not seem appetizing, and I don't remember what it was, so sorry about that. So let's look at what this game actually looked like. Here we go. Sorry for the weird angles. I just literally stood on a chair and was taking pictures of it. So it is what it is. So as you can see, the contested outpost is here. I put down first Corvus like right here and dropped all my fighters, knowing that I could just lift off Corvus and take her somewhere else. MC-80 is here. All of his Nevsbys are over here, and his transport's here. So clearly he's trying to hold on to the station with the transport initially. And then this is supposed to like sweep in around, which is actually what I don't want because I want the Onager always facing forward. But with the way things went down, the Onager was already here. I would probably preferred it to be here, but it's just, activation back and forth. It's not my cup of tea there just because he had 4 ships. Okay, so first round, I do all my Hondo Cataclysm and things, and I drop the token out about here. And then I try to alpha in all of my fighters. So let's go to the next page and you can see it. So I alpha in all my fighters. I double tap with Merrick and all this to try to strip the tokens off of Bright Hope. Well, guess what? I rolled like, 1, 2, 3, and then I rolled like almost 10 blue dice into the ship with rerolls with Sloan, and I didn't get a single accuracy. So guess what? That means my long range, my extreme range shot against it with 4 red dice because he was just out of close range isn't going to do anything. So that means he gets to hold on to the outpost for an entire turn for free. So that was super frustrating. I'm like, okay, well, I bet off way more than I could shoot with this. Because I really wanted to, after the first turn, start switching my shots over to here. And this is where you can start seeing it that I'm not in practice with 1 being competitive or 2 with this fleet in as a whole. Because I don't know where to put my Quasar yet, and I don't know where to put my Raider. For me, like, I never found that real sweet spot in the games. Like, my Quasar was either just out of range to command squadrons and safe, or if it was just in range to command squadrons and in range to take damage. So it's like it was in a hard spot, and then the Raider was always kind of out there. It was either completely safe and doing nothing, or it was like I had to move it to try to keep it alive. So like if I were to replay all these things, I would play it differently, but I would need practice just moving them around in conjunction with my Onager, because usually when I'm playing Sloan, I have like a Star Destroyer that's like up in your face, and then the Quasar is like around it. So Quasar is like really not a good target. Like you can shoot at it, but the ISDs then are gonna blast you. While the Onager's back here, not really being the shield to the Quasar, but the Quasar kind of needs to stay close to the squadrons so you can command squadrons, because you want to do your 6 squadrons because that's what you're here to do. But it needs to be closer to than that, and if they are staying back, it's a mess. So that's my opinion on it. So next we have this. I finally killed the transport, but it like took an extra turn, and then I started just killing all of his fighters and locking them down. But the problem was, because I committed so much to trying to take out that transport the first turn, he could then move his squadrons onto me. So then I basically just activated Sato for the rest of the game, which was super great for me. He managed to turn this Neb B in to take the token from the contested outpost again on this turn. And then my Quasar is in lots of trouble here. And this ship is now in range. So the MC-80 with engine tax kind of helps it get into range of the Onager. So now I'm like, I have to kill something and run. So I have to start playing speed games. Nothing really like crazy happened though, like in the battle itself. So then we go to here, and I managed to kill off this Neb and pretty much all of his fighters except for that Y-Wing, but that Y-Wing's now still close to all my ships. My Quasar jumped over here, and it died from a structural. If it stayed alive, then I could have commanded my squadrons. But now my squadrons are out of place to try to hunt down this Neb B, which is already starting to take damage. And my Onager's over here really injured because of, like, it's all of his shields are being stripped because of multiple shots from the MC-80. But, as you notice, I now control the station. So my opponent has 2 tokens and I have 1. So now I just need to try to even out the tokens across the game and run away, because that's really why I chose the contest outpost, is because if I could just shoot him off the outpost, then he doesn't score points and I at least know where he is. Advanced gunnery, clearly bad, and I bet the other one was like Solar Corona, which I didn't know where he was going to be, and he has enough shifts that he's going to be able to flank me. That. So I just need to even it out. I just need to tie him, and the objective then means nothing. Next turn, I start speed 4ing with this Onager to get it all the way up here. And I control the station. I'm out of range. His ships are down here. This ship's here. This, no real combat. I kill his last fighter. Perfect. Now he doesn't have that lucky black dice that I've been enabling him to use the entire game. Next turn, he's turning up toward me. My Onager clearly is speeding away. His ships are coming into it. So I'm waiting with my fighters here on the last turn for his Neb B to come in to try to kill it. And my Raider collects the next token. So now I have 3 tokens to his 2 tokens. Clearly, these 2 ships are going to come and take the station, and we'll be tied 3-3 with the tokens. But that's perfect for me, because I had first player advantage, and he scored actually no net positive for tokens. So my Onager is going to speed away. This guy is going to speed away. He has shots with all of these on all these different ships, so I chose to move my Raider to keep it alive, because if the Raider dies, that's like 70 plus points. And the Onager still has full hull, or it has 1 hull point damage, so I'm not really worried about it dying. Like, you would have to do really, really well with 4 red dice for me to lose 10 plus hull with defense tokens and a redirect, you know, like, probably not going to happen. So, in the game, I got my Raider away, my Onager flies away, he clearly takes the station, and I just went at him with all my fighters into his ship on the very last turn. And this is when my defenders decided to say, hey, you really want those accuracies, right? No, I don't. I really want just straight damage. I just want damage. 1 hit at a time, I would have killed it. But no, they came up with accuracies, and Tell decided to be an accuracy as well. Like, so he just stuck around tying down a fighter, didn't kill it for a couple turns, was out of the combat for that, just locking that fighter down. And then he didn't do the damage that I needed. So he had 2 hull left on the Salvation, which is the majority of his points right there. Like, the Salvation's a pretty pricey ship. So the game ended. We both had 3 tokens. I scored 154 points from killing stuff from him. He scored 102 points, plus we both had 60 points of tokens, and so the difference is like 52, which comes out to be a 6-5, which, you know, I'll trade a 6-5 against something like this. That's pretty good, especially because I haven't been in a tournament for so long. So I started off the day with a win and a 6-5. So then we're going to be moving on to the next round. If at any time you guys have comments or something like that, just throw them in the chat. I'll read them. I'll probably read them in between, like, you know, talking about a fleet, talking about the game. So just ask away questions or ideas or thoughts or something like that, and I can respond to them. Looks like people are just here listening. So if you are, and this is your first time, welcome aboard. Let's now talk about my next opponent. And this is Kyle's Martuk list. And this is the type of list that makes me worried about what I'm flying. Because like I said, I can reliably kill 1 big ship, maybe a small, and then I can scoot. But I feel like running against something like this, that's just too much shields and too much hull. So like he has a Providence and 2 Recusant Light Destroyers. So the Recusant Light Destroyers have evades, which really hurts me at the extreme ranges. And the Providence is just a tanky ship. So he has like 9 hull on that, plus 16 hull from the Recusants, plus the Recusants have 9 shields on the sides, and then the Providence has a total of 12 shields. So there's a lot of shields, a lot of hull to get through. So I'm like, I have to like be really, really careful of where my ships are, how I can kill them. So I'm like thinking way ahead on this already. He came in right at 400, so I had bid, and I chose first player because I don't want to get like last firsted with Patriot's Fist. That sounds like a really bad time for my Onager. So his list consists of a Providence class carrier. It has Martuk, so that's extra dice against my shields. Rune Hakau, and the Rune Hakau is really here with concentrate fires to intensify firepower. It has thermal shields, which makes this like a really, really not fun target for my Onager to shoot against. Unless I can like strip the token off with Sloan first. Like I said, intensify firepower, which just powers all these red dice to auto hits and all this salvo into auto hits if I'm just attacking it. Boosted comms. This is a questionable thing. Him and I actually had a whole conversation about fighter versus not fighter stuff after the match. So I wouldn't put it here, but I discussed that with him. Point defense, ion cannons. Ugh. So I already don't want to be shooting at it with my Onager because of thermal shields. And then it has point defense ion cannons, which makes me not want to attack it with any of my blue dice Sloan stuff. So I could get that 50% chance to get a hit or the 25% to get the accuracy. But even if I get the hit, then I'm re-rolling. And if it's an accuracy or a crit, it's like just a 50% chance to be a damage because I can't spend this accuracy at that point. So this is like a really not fun target for me to try to target. Great. Then it has linked turbo laser towers because re-rolling red dice when you're a red dice machine makes sense. His last 2 ships are both Recusant light destroyers. The first one has linked turbo laser towers and the Patriot's Fist. Standard build. Cool. The next one has ordnance pods, so he can deal with fighters, is what he said, with linked turbo laser towers. So this is like just a lot of big ships that can move really fast and close the distance and have a lot of hull. Like, this is going to be a rough game. And then he has 4 droid TIE fighters, which is just like a token screen, and I'm not really worried about that, but what I am worried about is can I take out all those fighters and then go after their ships fast enough that I can kill their ships and then get away with my Onager. So like there's a lot of calculations going in here. I chose to be first player because of that, because then I can shoot and then scoot and get out of the way. He had surprise attack, contested outpost, and solar corona. Well, I don't want to do solar corona because I need the accuracies to lock down that evade on the Recusants. I do not want to do contested outposts against this fleet because that's a lot. He has like nine command that can just sit on it, and I don't think I can shoot off 3 large ships from the station. There's just no way. So that's me being down 120 points to begin with, and then each of his Recusants are probably only like 100 points. Yeah, they're like 98 and 95. Like they're not enough that I can kill 1 ship and trade out the outpost and still win. So at that point I would have to be perfect, knock him off the outpost, kill all of his fighters, and kill one of his ships, and then maybe I win if nothing dies, which is really just way too risky. So I went with surprise attack, and I'm like, you know what? This is the perfect opportunity for me to try out surprise attack as first player with the Onager, just to see how it works, because I know it's built to be able to take the surprise attack and do fine with it. So let's play. Let's see what it does. So we play that. So I'll get to the setup. Where is it? There it is. Like that. And then I'll look at the comments because I see some of you are commenting there. Okay. Welcome, Skull. How many players? It was a 14-game tournament. And it's already answered. Yeah, so that story actually has like decent turnout. I know the players that play there can more reliably tell me, but I think they have average like 10 plus players that play each Sunday. So it's a pretty big community out there, which is great, like to have a big Armada community when, you know, the game's dead. But like the game's not dead if you have people to play with, and the people that want to play the game and learn the game and play the game. And that's what makes that store so good, is because they're friendly to the store people, or the game players, and like they're in communication with us of how many tables we can have on different Sundays and things like that. And the store is great, Games Plus over there with their Armada community, and so I give them props for that. And then the community itself is all really good people. So if it was closer, I would be there every single week, but it is pretty far. Anyway, to change to size and color of your mouse while discussing the Battlefield white mouse, harder to see. That I don't know. I would have to look into that at some other point, James. During the live stream, it wouldn't be a great idea. So in the future, I'll try to look into that. Any chance breakdown of the factions? I don't have all the lists, but I will try to, at the end, I'll go through the list of different players, and I'll try to remember what different people were playing. I think it was primarily CIS and Imperial, with a splattering of Rebel, and then maybe one GAR player. But other people at the tournament might respond to you in the chat. So here we go. This is the setup. He dropped the station all the way in the corner to put me in timeout, which is fine. So I put my Raider originally right here, pointing this way, and then set up all my fighters here. And then he did something that I didn't expect. I mined this whole area with all the obstacles, thinking that if he set up here, then I could set up the rest of my stuff here and then come at him like this. But he set all of his stuff up in the open, which then I'm like, oh, well, I can't be over on the far side of the table then, because he would be on me in like one turn. So then I have to actually set up in the timeout corner, which isn't where I really want to be. And then my Onager only has one escape route, which is move across the table and try to end up on his side of the table, like that far edge. So I dropped my Quasar down, which, of course, because I, put all these obstacles in my way, is now in a really awkward place. And then I'm like, where do I put my Raider? And I'm like, you know what? It just goes right back into the kitty timeout corner right back here. And then I can just swing around the edge and try to keep it safe, because Patriot Fist could pretty reliably just one-shot kill it. So I don't want to play that. So that's the way we set up. I don't think I used Cataclysm this round, just because I measured it out. And this ship, it would be the only one that would really get into range of it. And activation order, it goes last. So why waste the token? And I can just use the token later on. So here's the first turn. And I'm going to zoom in on this. I used my squadrons to push up here. And he commanded his to move forward. So then I jumped them all forward during the squadron phase. And because this guy is rogue, he came in and attacked. And then Mauler came in and splashed everyone. And then Steel came in, and then because I had squalled this guy forward, he made him attack. And we killed one of his squadrons right off the bat. And now my mouse is stuck. But you can see this firing line, like, here's my Onager, here's death. Like, I don't have enough turns with him going speed 3, so speed 3 is like, that's one turn he's in range. 2 turns he's on top of me to survive with my Onager. So I had to like start already planning my exit strategy, and I needed to be able to do that quickly to get out of here. But the problem is this Providence is here, which is cutting off my Quasar from the rest of the fleet. So now my Quasar has got to be committed to going up and up around. Well, guess what? My fighters need to now be over here after killing these fighters, so they're all going to be out of position, which is what you're going to see in a second. Let me pull up the next slide, sorry. And here we go. So, Onager shots into it. You can already see I'm starting to turn. I just missed this asteroid, which was huge. I wiped out his squadrons. And then his ships were too far away after I wiped out his squadrons, because I didn't want him to activate his squadrons and get a free activation against me. So I just wiped them out quickly and then let his ships move in. So then I onagered him, and I got that juicy red damage against all the ships, which is fun. And then he actually asked me this question, why I didn't plan on then moving all my fighters into here. And I'm like, I just don't want to take free flak against unactivated ships. Like, my squadrons aren't going to be doing enough damage to either of these ships after they've moved to really be significant, especially with like full defense tokens still. So I would just be sacrificing them against, a ship that has ordnance pods. Like, I just don't want to risk it. So I kept him out, and then the next turn I'll go in and I'll do my shenanigans. That's about it for that. You can see I'm trying to figure out where I want to go with my Raider. My Raider, like, if I could just drop it to speed 0 and hide it in a corner would probably be better for most of these games, which I guess I could have. But it's just always like right out of combat, but I don't know where I want to move it into combat, and everything's red range ships that I face, so it's like it's going to get obliterated because it's blue dice. So, as you can see, I decided to move it up here. I ended up leaving his one ship after shooting it at 1 health. Great. So then he attacked me, and then I salvoed it back, killing it, which was great. That was a lot of fun. It's always fun to kill a ship with salvo. It's always bad for the other player, but like it's a cool moment. And then I was able to shoot at this ship, giving it some damage, taking off a bunch of its shields, and now I'm in this precarious position that I really need to hit it. And I already knew that I needed to hit it, so I'd already planned the squadron this turn for it. Because I'm like, if I could get in that squadron attack and do... I figured I needed like 2-ish damage after the onager shot. And then Merrick was like, here, have 2 accuracies. And I'm like, really, dude? I just needed the 2 damage. 2 damage. I have him double arced. The first shot... I would get into the shields possibly if he didn't spend the brace, or he spends the brace, but you just give me 2 accuracies. Out of all the other shots that I've taken, you haven't given me any accuracies in the previous game. And then this shot, you're like, here you go, here's your 2 accuracies for the game. And you're like, no, I needed the damage. So then I double arced him, and I left him at like 2 health. Because he got a crit off me the previous turn with the ship that... when he attacked me, then I salvoed him back. He got blinded gunners, so I couldn't use the accuracies. So if I had those accuracies, I would have killed him because I would have blocked the brace. But I can't use my accuracies, and magically the red dice heard that and decided to come up as accuracies. And then you can see that my Quasar is clearly out of the fight. My fighters are down here, Quasar's up here, my Raider's up here. So it's like at this point we're going to be disengaging and seeing what happens. Well, what happens is my onager explodes because it had... I got it past him, right? I snuck it past him, and then he took a side shot into me, and he rolled something crazy. It was like an accuracy to block my brace that I still had. Then it was like a double red, a red crit, and like 2 black doubles. And I'm like, okay, I die. And I died exactly. Which is like, man, this is like the second time, like the Quasar before died exactly. This ship died exactly. Like, I only needed like 1 less damage from that. And then the next turn I would have been speed 4 off into the corner. Nothing can shoot me. So it explodes. And now I'm like, okay, well now I have to kill this ship. Because it's like 40-ish points for the Tri-Fighters. And... his other ship maybe is 90 because it's practically naked. It's less than 100. So this is his Patriot Fist, which is the more expensive one. So I really need to kill it. So basically the next couple turns what I'm doing is I'm moving my fighters backwards to group up here so then I can send my fighters in to try to kill it over the course of the turns. So... I end up moving my Raider in front so my Quasar can ram it so that I can keep my Quasar out of range but inside range of all my squadrons. And then as you can see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 damage. I was able to eat it because Steel, who was way out of position, ended up flying back and then the last turn moving forward and taking it out. So that's the end of that game. It was a stressful game for me. I figured this was going to be one of my hardest matchups in the tournament, which is just like a whole bunch of big ships because I can't reliably kill like 3 big ships with an onager with just 1. 2, that's a different story, but with just 1, I'm not able to punch enough damage in to kill it in 6 turns. They're all over me. So the end of the game, I ended up scoring 237 points versus the Onager, or I lost the Onager, which was 123 for a difference of 114, which came out to be a 7-4. So far during the day, I'm 2 for 2. Lower scoring games, but I'm learning. As you can see, I've gotten better this game than the last game. And my Quasar didn't die, but my Onager died, so I'm just like trading different ships. But I was pretty happy with this game because I honestly thought that those ships were going to crush me before I was going to be able to kill enough of them to get rid of me. So then we're going to be moving on to the last game. So I'm going to look at chat. If you have any questions or comments or anything like that, hit it up. I'm going to look at that, and then we'll get into our last game after that. Looks like we got some comments. I'm going to go back up through them. Yeah, 3 CIS, 4 Imperial, 3 Rebel, and 2 Gar. I don't remember the other Gar. But yeah, something to that effect. Do you think a fully upgraded Providence or Imperial Star Destroyer is more dangerous? 100% more dangerous is the Imperial Star Destroyer. Double redirect and a brace, I think, is more important than having the salvo. Especially with like XI7s, like it just melts through a Providence. Like 1 versus 1. Basically, an Imperial Star Destroyer decked out can take out any other decked out large ship except for the Starhawk. That's my opinion, at least. And when you get into the brawler type ships with Kuats, they're extremely good at taking out other larges. But with the new Ion Cannon card, it's kind of more risky because those double blacks can be just immediately re-rolled, and it's like also risky just for squadrons as a whole to try to take it out. So I would still say an Imperial Star Destroyer is the strongest large ship. Okay, All G, thanks for that. Oh, you're talking about the players. Cool. And hello, Rush. Welcome aboard. Okay, so let's get into the last match of the day. There it is. And this is Derek's Ozzel list. I really like Ozzel. I think actually Ozzel, Martuk probably were the 2 commanders that were present the most during the course of the tournament. I like him not just for MSU builds, but also for bigger ships. For example, if you have like an Onager, you could just straight concentrate fire, and then Ozzel allows you to adjust your speed, which is pretty cool. And you can then risk always dropping to speed 0 to then burst up to speed 1. Because you just automatically get to do it. You can't be rated. You can't be blocked in any way. Like, you have speed control. So I always like that. So let's take a look at the list. We have an Imperial Star Destroyer Simoon 1 refit with Admiral Ozzel. Captain Nina, who becomes the bane of my existence because he replaces that contain, which I ignore the contain because I will be triggering special crits. And replaces with an invade, which is really bad for me, who's trying to shoot him at extreme range. He has Intensify Firepower. Gunnery Chief Valarin, who historically on the channel, I know I've said this a lot, I don't like her. She didn't really come into use in this game, but she might. And it allows him to take, if you probably guess, he has Advanced Gunnery. Advanced Gunnery easily. I don't know if I would equip it that way, just because I really dislike her. But it is what it is. He has quad battery turrets, so he can slow roll and add blue dice at longer range. And then because he has Nita, he brought turbo laser reroute circuits to make those double hits juicy, which he ends up doing. And then Relentless, so then he doesn't have to flip as many command dials, so he has more knowledge when he's setting his dials. Next, he has a Quasar 1, because he's a fighter build. Fighter controllers, boosted comms, and expanded hangar. This is kind of like your cheap version of your fire sprays, which is fine. And it is what it is. It's good. And then he has a Gazanti with Hondo and Bomber Command. And you're like, Bomber Command? That's kind of a weird upgrade for an Imperial fleet. What does he have? And let me tell you, he has a lot. So let's go take a look at that. For his fighters, he has Dengar, Soontir Fel, Hal Runner, and Mauler. Those are his aces. So all of these synergize really well at taking down squadrons because he gives counter to everyone, which I know that game. Hal Runner, gives an additional dice to everyone, so now that's an increase technically of counter 2, plus anything that has Swarm gets an additional die, so that's how you really jack up your Imperial fighter blue dice, especially with Flight Controller. And then like Soontir, you have to attack him or you're taking an auto damage, so Soontir is countering with 4 dice, blah. And Mauler can splash damage. The TIE Interceptor is also countering with 4 dice. Hal Runner's countering with 1. Mauler is countering with 2. Like, this is like a mean little build. Then he has 6 TIE Bombers. 6. So he has like, what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 11 squadron activations. And so I'm looking across and I'm like, well, he hardcore out-deploys me. There is no way that I can deploy and have knowledge of anything. Like, he could drop all of his squadrons down, and I would have pretty much my entire thing deployed, and he would still have squadrons to put down. So that's rough. He actually outbid me by 1 point. He had a 3-point build because he's at it's up there, 397, and I was only 2. So he chose to be second player. And he gave me these options. Advanced Gunnery, hard pass. I don't want to Simoon with Advanced Gunnery. No thank you. Especially with like doubles automatically with TRC. That sounds like a really, really, really bad time with Intensify. Like, it's just like so much damage, I would just get annihilated. Contested Outposts, and I'm like, if we play Contested Outposts, I get super out-deployed, and he could just flank me with his Star Destroyer, and then my Onager would be kind of out of the game. So I don't want that. So I chose Superior Positions. Superior Positions was a very big risk for me to take because he has the 6 bombers. Like, if he gets in the back of any one of my ships, that's like 6 tokens, which makes it so then I can practically not win. So I have to kill all of his squadrons, which is good because I like playing the squadron game, killing squadrons. It's something I'm really, really good at. So I felt confident enough that I could keep him to getting 0 tokens from squadrons. Getting tokens from his ships, shooting me, maybe. But I was pretty confident that I would be able to lock down all of his squadrons easily enough to kill them, especially with Mauler. Like, if I could land him in that bomber swarm, that's like 1 damage, 1 damage, 1 damage, and I would just whittle them down pretty quick. So that's why I chose Superior Position, because he already knew where I was going to have all my stuff. And Superior Position, if I could kill all of his squadrons first, my squadrons can be scoring points, and I want my squadrons to be shooting at ships, and I want to get accuracies, so hopefully that all works out. So let's jump back to that game. Why doesn't it want to go? Okay. Here we go. So, nothing new in the chat, so let's start talking about it. So, I started down here in this bottom corner here, and I put my Onager in the corner first, and mainly because if you follow my track, it goes across the table, so if he deployed anywhere over here on the top of this table on the side that I'm at, then I would be able to just shoot him right off the bat. And I'm fine with that. And then my Quasar could just swing around the side like that as my Onager just guns things down that are coming into it. And then my Raider could just run off. So my squadrons are positioned, so if I need to shift down the table, I can. And if I need to shift up the table, I can as well. And if he deploys in the other corner, which is what I figured he would do, because that's usually what you do with Solar Corona or Superior Positions, then my Onager can take the middle of the table and move down, and then I actually have longer ranges to get into extreme range, so I can like lob dice for longer before his ships come into combat. So that was kind of my setup there. He decided to set up, like I said, in the other corner, and he did this, and I complimented him on this in person. I'll compliment him on this again. And if you're running like a mix of anti-squadron and anti-ship fighters, this is what you need to do with it. This is the perfect example. This here is his anti-squadron. This here is his anti-ship, his bombers. Two separate places. It gives me a choice. I can either try to kill off his anti-squadron and let his bombers go free, or I can lock down his bombers and then his fighters come in and counter alpha me. So I'm in a tough place. And this is how you should do it. You should keep them separate for as long as possible. If you're running a very mixed fleet like this, like if you're running like aces to protect your Y-wings and then a fleet of Y-wings, that's how you do it. If you're running TIE bombers, this is how you do it too. Or hyenas, like you have a pile of hyenas over here, and then you have like all your tri-fighters that are protecting them. Keep them separate, and then you can move into it. So if they attack your tri-fighters, your bombers are free to run. And if you're other way, then your tri-fighters jump in, and then they just do that wicked droid laugh as everything just fires at everything. Okay, so let's start playing. I move my fighters forward, keep them in range. My Quasar here, I don't really know what to do with my Quasar per se, because I really want my Quasar to be up here because his Star Destroyer is going to come down across the table and kill my Quasar. This is what I was saying earlier in the video, that I never really know where to put my Quasar right now. Like, I'm just out of practice with it. And my Raider, like, clearly these are in danger because this is going to sweep down. So I need to be able to get my fighters in position that I can stop one of these, because right now the TIE bombers are here, speed 4 is here. So that means I have 3 turns to protect them from getting hit where they sit now without moving. So that's going to be dangerous. I am not going to have a shot with this until at least next turn. So then that's like less turns that I have to try to shoot into his big ship at longer ranges. That's the risk of spreading it out. So I need to figure out what I'm doing. We're just both positioning. And then we both kind of like play chicken with our fighters this turn. Like, we both clearly are in range. But whichever one of us alphas in probably is going to, or alphas in at this point of the game, is probably going to lose because of flak range. Like, if you come into my fighters, I'll flak you here, and then I'll just move my Raider up into it, and we'll just have a flak Sunday. And where his Star Destroyer was, I would have been probably in double flak, so I didn't want to move into that, especially because he kept Mauler out of range of me. So even with Squall, it would be really, really difficult to jump him forward to get there. He's still keeping his 2 groups separated, which is what I said is good. And then these bombers are really starting to worry me, and also this Star Destroyer, it can be on me the next turn. So this turn is where I hit off the best red crit I've ever done. Boom. Red crit right into that Star Destroyer, and all of these squadrons take damage, and all of these squadrons, except for like these 2, take damage. So that squadron and these 2 squadrons did not take the splash damage from my red crit. Everything else did. So that means all these Imperial Ace squads that have 3 health now have 2 health. Guess what? I have Mauler. So now they really only have 1 health. So I start with the Onager, and then he moves, I believe, his Star Destroyer next, because he doesn't want to attack me where I am with his fighters just yet. And then I Alpha Strike in and wipe out pretty much all of his anti-squadron in one go. Then he does something that I absolutely did not expect, and it was probably one of the best moments I've had in a tournament. He turned all of his TIE bombers into me. Let me jump ahead where it was. So just picture right here. I jumped forward Steel, because he has a lot of health, to lock down Mithril. I got him just in range to lock him down, so then he couldn't, splash damage me. And I thought it was good. So Steel jumps in first, and he did his thing, and then Saber Squadron sniping all the counter ships, which was great. And, so Steel, the hero of the Empire, is over here, and he's commanding all of his squadrons to kill all these squadrons. And out of nowhere comes this cloud of TIE bombers with black dice and flight controllers. So they're all 2 dice hits, and they obliterate the hero of the Empire, Mr. Steel. And, like, how often can you say, like, in one turn, bombers came in and killed your Merrick Steel. Never. So I losing him really was bad because I wanted to go after his other things, and his 2 dice is like the best thing for Sloan. But I didn't feel like that bad. It was an amazing play. I didn't see it coming. The sad part for him though is he then moved his fighters into me, all of his bombers, and now I just have a field day of trying to kill them off. And I was playing lazy because this is the 3rd game of the day, and I had not banked a navigate token yet on my Corvus because I was just using it, adjusting yaw, going up and down, not knowing where to place it. So it got here, and it was a sad day for this. I was at speed 2. So if I went speed 3, I would be nicely double arced by the Simoon. So I took the better option, neither of it's a better option, and I stayed speed 2 right here, and I would just take a single front arc of the Simoon instead of the front arc at medium range and the side arc at medium range. I don't know what I was doing. If I had a token, it would go speed 4 and would be up here, and it would be totally fine. But I didn't, and that was a huge mistake on my part because this ship will not be there next turn. There's the first hint. Yeah, but his ship is just an arc of this onager, so I'm going to need to crank this ship down. So here it is after he destroyed my Corvus. Again, exact damage. Ugh, so frustrating. He rolled, he TRC'd it into a double, and I'm like, well, if that double's a hit, I survive on 1 health. If it's not, I'm dead. So I tossed my token. I had him reroll a red crit and a red double, and it landed as a red hit and a double. So it exploded with exact damage. Every single ship that I lost this whole tournament was on exact damage on a double dice or a crit. The crit, and then I'm thinking to myself, that ship is worth 70 plus points, and currently I'm not going to kill any of his ships unless I can take out this Star Destroyer. And the Star Destroyer is stripped of shields, and it has 1, 2, 3 hull damage already on it. My Quasar's next, though. So if I go with the Onager and I don't kill this Star Destroyer, then this Star Destroyer is going to have a double arc into my Quasar. And now I have to not only kill his Star Destroyer, I'm probably going to have to kill out of all these little TIE bombers out here in the middle of the field. But to do that, to guarantee that I kill them off, I need to leave fighters over there. But what I really need is Martuk Steel to be down here attacking the Star Destroyer. And I'm like, if he only didn't die, I need him down here, but he's not down here. Frustrating. So I whittle him down. I tank this shot. And, I wish I had another picture. So I tank the shot with the Star Destroyer after barely not killing it with the Onager. And this ship, it has no tokens. It took 3 hull damage because he luckily did not roll a single accuracy on his front arc, and he had no rerolls. So he did 10 damage against my Quasar's front. I threw out the brace because he had already shot it with the side. And so I took 5 damage, 2 to the front shields, 2 to the side shields, and then a crit. And oh man. And then I managed to get my fighters in here, and this guy kindly rolled, this TIE Defender rolled me an accuracy, and then Saber Squadron came in and rolled me an accuracy, and then before he moved up here, Jendon made this TIE Defender roll again, and he rolled me an accuracy too. Thanks, guys. Thanks. He only has redirects left. He has no shields, so that's really, really useful. So thankfully the Quasar had this really nifty double arc into it, so I shot it with the rear and got a token from that, and then I shot it with the side, hitting it and killing it with enough damage. At this point we just decided to play out the rest of the game's fighters, which with Mauler here I was able to just bounce around for the next 2 turns and do enough damage that all the bombers went away. So at the end of the game, I killed off his fighter squadron and I killed his ISD. I lost Steel and I lost the Raider. But I scored 5 points worth of superior position and kept him from scoring any. So at the end of the game, I had 295 points, and he had 93, which came to be a 9-2. So let's jump forward into the rounds. I ended up taking second place in this tournament right here with 22 points. Dan ended up winning. He had also 3 wins. He was playing, I believe, a Martuk big ship list, which I would probably struggle against because, I only can kill 1 ship reliably. And he scored a total of 27 points for first place. And then the gentleman that I played in the first round, he ended up coming in here at third place with 22 points. As you can see on this scoreboard, Ken was also there. Ken didn't send me his fleet, so I can talk generally what he had, but I can't give you the exact. He came in 5th place with 2 wins and 1 loss with 17 points. So good showing for both of us. We both had a lot of fun. Ken played the Ozzel list that he played, I believe, earlier in this season. Let me check real fast, just to make sure. It was either this season or last season. Everything blurs together. Season 3, and it's that one. No, it must have been season 2. Maybe season 1? Whatever. There's a list that Ken plays an Ozzel fleet with, and he did slight modifications to it. Yeah, it was this list. It was season 3, I believe, episode 2. It was Ozzel versus the Mon Mothma fleet that I had, and so he used that. It's a very MSU Imperial list. And of course, the first game he went up against a Rebel MSU list, so it's like MSU against MSU. And then next he went up against, I believe it was like a double Imperial Star Destroyer list. He said that time got called. He finished the 5th round, and the Star Destroyer had no tokens with 1 health left, so if he killed it, he would have won. And then he ended up winning his last match as well. So we both did well. We both enjoyed it. I'm glad I got to play Sloniker, because I've always kind of wanted to play it, but I didn't want to put Ken through the suffrage of playing a fleet like that, so I could get that out of my system. If I were to play it again, I think I would do better with it, because as you can see, I ramped up as I climbed the tree with how I did with the fleet. Each game I did better as we went along. And so 6-5, learning the ropes. 7-4, still learning the ropes. And then I finally started getting into the groove of it, mainly because it's fighters. I'm really good at killing fighters. That's why I usually play fighter lists. And it's a 9-2. So it was a lot of fun. It was really nice to go out there and meet everyone. I haven't been out to play Armada with anyone besides Ken in so long. Oh, hold on. I forgot my prize. One of the players in the area, I actually have a funny story about him. His name's Jerry, and he's also known as Jerry's Dice, because his dice are usually hot and he plays Akbar. But Jerry is big in the X-Wing community, and he's big in the Armada community, and he does paintings, and he donates them for prizes, for charity, and things like that. And he donated some of the prizes for this tournament, and they're his awesome Star Wars paintings. So I got to come home with a Star Wars painting, and it's amazing. 1 second. Look at that. How cool is that, right? He does all these paintings himself, and as soon as I saw that those were the prizes and it was Akbar like that, I'm like, that's the one I'm taking because it looks amazing. So big shout out for him for donating all of his paintings for it. And I'm really glad that I got it. So now my funny story with Jerry. Years and years and years ago, when I was going to be playing my first tournament, I needed practice with my fleet. And I wasn't sure if I really wanted to take it or not. It was a Sloan list, big surprise. And I was just on Facebook, our local Chicago Facebook group, and someone was like, hey, does anyone want to get a game in? And I'm like, sure. I'll get a game with you. So then that was Jerry. And we were doing messaging back and forth, trying to figure out where to go. And like none of the game stores that we were calling were having free space. And then he's like, you know what? If you're comfortable with it, you could just come over to my house. I have a table in the basement. And I'm like, okay, like, where do you live? And he's like, just so you know, I'm not a serial killer. So that's what I always know, is Jerry not the serial killer, because that's what he messaged me. Just so you know, I'm not a serial killer. And then, of course, I did the smart aleck response, like, yeah, like, what are the odds that we're both serial killers? So I drove out there and had a good time, meeting him, playing in his basement. Like, this is the first time we've ever interacted. And then, of course, I've seen him at a bunch of tournaments since and playing. He's a really, really nice guy. He's like one of the nicest guys you'll ever come across. He didn't play in the tournament, but he helped the game store out in the community by donating those awesome pictures. I wish I took a picture of all the other ones. He had a nice TIE fighter. He had a cool Kylo Ren. You know how his red helmet sparked? So it had like the lightning going through it. And then he also had a pretty cool looking Phase 1 clone trooper that he had painted up. But I personally think I got the best one with the Akbar. So I was pretty excited about that. And my wife, growing up, always called him with her family General Fish Face. So she was kind of cool with it too. So I'll have that hung up somewhere in our basement or a bedroom or something like that. So I am pretty excited about that. So I've been talking for a while, so I'm going to go check out what's going on in chat. So if you guys have any comments or thoughts or anything like that, hit me up there. We've already gone for an hour and 13 minutes, which is actually faster than I thought it was going to take. I thought this was going to be at least like 2 hours of me just blah, 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 because there's so many different fleets to go over and so many different turns. But when you don't really remember exactly what happened in each turn, it's just a general, I guess it's a little bit faster. Okay, so let's take a look. I got to go up. Lots of comments. Hi, Hannah. Welcome, Hannah. She's one of the players that we had yesterday. She's played Ken, and that was her first tournament, and she did pretty well. As you can see right here, let me transfer over. You can see right here, she did 8th place. So congratulations on 8th place there, Hannah. Where was Tell? I used him to escort Steel. Well, so the story about that is I ran over the previous turn Black Squadron. So Black Squadron was way out of range, and Tell couldn't get into range to protect Steel. And I thought, what are the odds that Mauler was going to be able to do 5 damage through both of my readied braces to kill me? So I wasn't really worried about it. And then that's when the surprise swarm of TIE bombers came in, like they were playing Star Wars squadrons, and just mowed him down. So he was just a little bit out of range. I moved him forward afterwards to protect Mithril so I could do the jumping, but he was I honestly did not see coming the swarm of TIE bombers with flight controllers. Like, it's something that I would do. Can ask Ken. I would totally do that to him, but I just didn't see it coming. I thought those fighters were going to move down toward my ships to help take down the ships, not jump backwards. So like, I don't know if it was a good play or not, because leaving him alive would have like helped me a ton getting tokens and killing his ISD. So maybe sacrificing them into him was a decent idea, because his Star Destroyer almost survived. It was, if my Quasar didn't kill it, it would have run away on 1 health. So it was a gamble on his part. It was a fun gamble, I have to say that. Wasn't Sloan dead at the point anyway, though? Sloan... Oh, you are right. That's why the accuracies don't do anything. You are right, Az. But still, I couldn't even reroll my crits with her dead. But that's when... So Sloan's dead, and that's when I start getting accuracies. Thanks a lot, pilots. Hannah says I could only take out Dan's capital ship. Yeah, I think Dan had like a Providence tank, Patriot's Fist, and like 3 of the hard cells with Martuk. So that's like one of my worst nightmares, and it just eats big ships too. So I probably wouldn't have had enough firepower to kill all of them, because hard cells suck to kill. And I believe all of his objectives, if you look at how many points he scored, were like token farming objectives, and I'm not really set up to token farm. So yeah, he played very well. Yes, and Hannah did play a double Star Destroyer, and it looks like Ken is in the chat now. He said first game was against Oz, second was against Hannah, and third was against Dan, not the Dan that won the tournament. I believe that was Dan that traveled the farthest to get to the tournament. Everyone's saying it was a good time. It's a trap. I think we can get a photo or two up on our Instagram. Yeah, so Ken's going to post on our Instagram some of the photos from his game. We just didn't have time to coordinate him getting it to me today, of the prizes and things like that. Hannah actually, I believe, walked away with 2 of them, so she has a bunch of them. Yeah. It was a lot of fun. I wish I could do more tournaments. It's just life and everything's pretty busy. So this was a really nice getaway for me to be able to play other people in Armada. As much as I love playing Ken, it is also nice to play someone else for a change. Because also, this is, oddly enough, this is the first time I've really played Onager not against Ken, because, I don't play anyone else. And you guys have already seen all of my videos of playing Onager. And so I got 3 more games in. So it was fun. And I really enjoyed it, and a big thank you out again to the store that hosted it, Games Plus, and to Dan for setting it up, and for my wife for allowing me to go to it. So those are the big thank yous there. So let's talk about what's happening in Ion Radio this week. Wednesday. Ken and I have a video coming out on Wednesday, and you all should pay attention to it. It's a big announcement. Something big is happening. It's happening. And you should watch that video. It's going to be something big for the channel, big for Armada actually as a whole, I think. So we're really, really excited about it, and that's all the spoilers I'm going to get for it so far, but you should tune in Wednesday for that. Next, we have, starting this, I believe Friday is when Ken's going to post the first one, we're going to be starting our This Is Madness tournament. For 2022, and Ken and I are both super, super excited for you guys to watch that. For those of you that don't know, This Is Madness is when we have our Patreons, our Discord members, and our YouTube people submit us lists. They're 300-point lists, just so we can play them faster. And Ken and I play like a bracket game of them, so that we can come out who's the best commander. So each commander is only submitted once into it. So it's a lot of fun, and it's a way to interact with everyone in the interwebs. We're playing their list, and it's cool, and then their list versus someone else's list, and then a list progresses, and then it's against someone else's list, and then we come out with a champion. So last year's champion, IrishMadCat, is back again with a list in it, and then we have a bunch of Patreon members and Discord members that submitted lists. So they're very varied lists. They're all 300 points. And if you haven't joined us already on Discord, you should. You should come join us on Discord. There's a whole thread on that. And if you scroll up, you can find a picture that Ken posted, probably pinned it in that channel. And it's the bracket. So you can look at the bracket. You can see who plays who made the list. There's a video out already that has Ken and I running down what the lists are. So you can watch that too. And then you could fill out your bracket and come to our channel, post it up there, who you think is going to win, because again, it's going to start on Friday. So if you don't have a bracket in by then you can't get bragging rights. So act fast. So that's coming up, and I think that's it for kind of spoilery news so far. I'm not positive on which game Ken's going to be releasing, because he's the master of the lists for Madness. So we'll all be surprised. I obviously know the outcome because I was there, but we'll be surprised on which game it is. So let me go back to the chat. Ken says yes, March Madness match 1 will be Friday. So in Ion Radio, SSD then. So I actually did. So that's not the big news. I did, with that great sale that happened the other day, I got a second SSD because I'm crazy, and I'm thinking about how to paint it up, and I think it would be really, really slick if I could get some sort of like decal or something like that for like the Ion Radio symbol to put on the ship. I haven't decided if I wanted to paint the rest of it yet, or how we would want to do that, but being able to decal our logo onto it I think would be really, really cool, like kind of where the Rebels put the Rebel symbol on the Lysankia from Old Canon. I think that would be really slick, so I'm going to be working on that eventually, but that would be cool, but that's not the big surprise. Will this be in Discord? What will be in Discord? The March Madness? Not March Madness, that's copyrighted. The This Is Madness? Yes. The videos will be posted to YouTube, and the bracket and things like that are in our Discord, Hannah. In the link or the description of this video should be a link to our Discord, and if it's not, just on our YouTube page itself we have links for it. So that's where you can get a link to join over there. Bracket is also on the community page of our YouTube, is what Ken says. Cool. So that's about it. I've snuck this video in between feedings of the baby, so I'm going to go tend to the baby. Hopefully he's sleeping. But thank you very much for tuning in and hanging out with me tonight and listening to me talk about the tournament I played in. It was a lot of fun, and again, big thank you out to Games Plus, Dan for putting it on, and my wife for letting me go to it. Ken and I both really enjoyed ourselves. And we didn't have to face each other. That's what was really nice about it. Like, we thought, like, after our first round, I think Ken got a 6-5 and I got a 6-5, that round 2 was going to be an Ion Radio bloodbath, and no one really wanted that. So we didn't have to face each other, which is good, because usually when I go to a tournament, I know I was saying goodbye and then I'm telling a different story. Usually when I go to a tournament, like when I went to Gen Con, I placed Jack, who was in the local game store, round 1 out of the 4, and then round 2 I placed Eric, who was in the local game store. I'm like, I could have done this at home, but I traveled, all the way across the country to do this. So it's nice not to play the people that you came with and play all the time in the tournament. So, yeah. Anyway, I was saying goodbye and good night. So thank you very much for tuning in. This has been Backseat Admiral. You've been watching Ion Radio, and I'm your host of the Backseat Admiral, John. Thank you very much. I will see you next time.